It's Will Sean Podcast. The internet cried out for 2 more blowhards, and they courageously answered that call. Armed with the weapon of wit, each week they're joined by guests to discuss movies, television, pop culture, and anything else that's pissing them off. Take it away, boys.
I'm Will Link.
And I'm Sean David.
And this is Will Sean Podcast.
Hungry for grain and constipated on matzah. How you doing, Will?
Many listeners were riveted last week at the tale of the giant mosquito that you let into my apartment and then had a prime opportunity to kill and let it live.
I am a merciful God.
But then right after the episode, I just want to let everybody know, right after the episode, the mosquito showed himself again, and you did the right thing. You murdered him. Turns out, I did some research, because this is what I did after you left.
Did you wipe the blood off the walls?
Oh, yeah, I did. No, I cleaned the whole apartment from top to bottom. Turns out, not a mosquito.
Yeah?
It was a mosquito eater. So this thing, it's just, where the valley is infested with them right now.
Yeah.
They have a lifespan of like a day. And their eggs are in the grass or something. They're coming out of the grass. They look like giant mosquitoes, but they eat real mosquitoes.
So, if you should happen to get bitten by a mosquito in your apartment over the course of your, usual habiting there, you cannot complain.
No, that thing would have died by the night anyway.
No, but you would have not slept for a month knowing that it was in there. Had it not showed its face again.
So gigantic. So that's what's going on in my life. What's going on in the world of Will Sean Podcast?
Once again, I want to thank everyone for returning to the show. I know we took a hiatus, but we're back now for a good long run. Please make sure you are subscribed to us on iTunes, that you give us a star rating, leave us a comment, follow us on Twitter, like us on Facebook, tell your friends, share the love, do all the things.
Okay.
Yeah.
And who's our sponsor this week?
250, I guess, maybe. Hooray for us. I mean, only 750 episodes left until this gets really sad.
Okay, so here's the thing. On iTunes, it says that this is our 250th episode, but in our notes, it says it's our 249th, and we were going by our notes, which apparently is wrong. So this is like a big... This is...
I guess this is a milestone.
Or is it really sad?
I mean, what we could do is just scrap the episode and rerun our 2-hour conversation with Louis C.K.
Yeah, we could do that instead. No, I don't think it's sad. We like doing it. As you've always said, some people are in a bowling league, you podcast.
It's true. It's my hobby.
On the show today, WGA is probably going to strike. So we will talk about the possible ramifications of that, and a little bit of the last strike. Will it be as bad? I don't think so.
Okay.
Also, we're already done with the topic. I don't think it'll be as bad. Also, pop culture blind spots. So things you would love, but you've been skipping out on, and will you eventually dive into them? We will discuss. And Saturday Night Live is going to be finally, truly live for us on the West Coast. And I've got opinions on that. But first, we are very excited to have with us today on the show, Taylor Brogan.
Can I talk now?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, that's me.
That's
Hello.
you.
Hi.
You could have chimed in before, even though...
No, I respect what's going on here.
The sanctity of the pre-guest podcast.
This is the
spot.
250th episode.
Yeah.
I feel a little bit taken aback.
Yeah.
At what point? What aspect?
Taken aback because you're so honored to be the 250th episode, or oh my God, these guys are crazy. They've done 250 episodes of this.
It's a lot of pressure. It's really. I want this to be a really good episode.
Okay. Well,
the dirty secret is they're all good episodes.
There's one.
This is going to be the one that really sucks.
This is going to be the only. There was one episode.
This is going to be. By the way, we're also doing this for Pepsi, so just so you know.
Oh fuck.
Yeah. We're going to solve racism and sexism, and we're going to stop.
We've overbooked the episode. We have too many guests.
We've got a lot going on. So anyway, Taylor, thank you for coming on.
Thank you.
I always like to start with the guest's origin story. So where are you from originally?
I am from Northern Virginia,
Oh.
which means something if you've been to Virginia and nothing if you haven't.
Or if you're a Civil War buff.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, we got a lot of that stuff.
Yeah. A lot of dead soldiers. Mm-hmm. Okay.
All over the place.
The ghosts of Confederate
I'm
generals
actually
wander
the kid from Sixth Sense, so I had a really interesting childhood.
Yeah. It's you and old Tom Joad.
Yeah.
So, okay, Northern Virginia. Mm-hmm. And did you like Northern Virginia? I mean,
Yeah, I mean, it was fine. It was
it a
good.
DC suburb or is it?
Yeah, it was a DC suburb.
Okay.
I grew up in kind of like a rednecky family about an hour outside of DC, so I
Okay.
had sort of a best of both worlds, like went to museums all the time as a kid and like saw Shakespeare and shit, but also had a horseshoe pit in my backyard.
Well, you got to have a horseshoe pit.
Yeah, definitely.
okay.
Yeah.
Now, being so close to DC though,
Mm-hmm.
was it? Because I mean, out here it's all movies. In DC, I'm assuming it's all politics. But did you get a lot of that, or?
Not a lot of politics, definitely a lot of government. Like everyone I knew growing up, I went to Catholic school, and everyone's parents like commuted into the city and worked for some branch of the
agency or-
government.
yeah.
And actually, the first 2 summers that I was home from college, I worked for the Department of Transportation, which was so interesting. And by that, I mean it wasn't.
Okay.
But yeah.
Thrilling day.
Well, I can actually see the problem. I could see where aspects of working for the Department of Transportation could be interesting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't think it was whatever.
It got you places.
It did. It got me money.
There you go.
So now you're a writer. Mm-hmm. And did you always have an interest in writing?
I thought I wanted to be a journalist.
Okay.
I grew up on Gilmore Girls and like really just like hardcore identified with Rory Gilmore. Wanted to be her so bad. And yeah, so I thought I wanted to like go to an Ivy League college and become a journalist.
Yeah.
And I ended up going to U Chicago and started studying political science and then kind of quickly realized I don't actually give a shit about that.
So you went from wanting to be Rory Gilmore, maybe being like, well, I want to write Rory Gilmore.
Exactly.
Did you ever take any classes taught by Professor Barack Obama?
No. He was already president.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Never mind that.
I'm a child.
I rescind the question.
So at what point then was the switch? Where was the switch made? Was there kind of a moment where you were just like, where you started writing more creatively or something that drew you into that?
No, I mean, it was just kind of, I liked my English classes a lot better. And I was really into like Buffy and Veronica Mars in college.
Yeah.
I kind of came to those really late. And was just like, fuck, I need to do this.
Did you end up as an English major then?
Yeah, I was
Okay.
an English major. Woohoo.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was fast.
Now, when did you move out here to Los Angeles?
I moved out here in 2014.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so you came out here, was there a particular reason, or was it just like, I want to be there because that's where all the TV stuff's happening? Or did you have like a particular, was something you were working on, or why'd you come out here?
Yeah, I mean, I moved out here like pretty much right after I graduated from college. I had an internship and knew that I wanted to be a TV writer.
Okay.
Like, had a very specific plan and goal in mind and had been preparing for it for like the 2 years leading up to graduation.
Now, had you ever been to Los Angeles before moving out here?
Once. I came for VidCon,
Okay.
which I don't know if you know what VidCon is.
Nope.
It's the YouTube convention.
Okay.
Yeah. And I actually, when I was still in school, I interned on a couple of web series. One's called The Lizzie Bennet Diaries. It won an Emmy.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm familiar with the name, but I don't know that I've seen it.
It's a thing.
Okay.
And then the other was called Squaresville. And I basically decided that I needed experience because I didn't want to move out to LA without friends or without experience under my belt. Because I knew, like, U Chicago is a great school, but I was definitely at a disadvantage because it's so hyper academic. Unless I wanted to like go do a PhD in film.
Right.
That was
Film
not
theory or something.
exactly.
Yeah.
So I did these internships, met a bunch of people, and came out for VidCon to meet them, basically. so that I knew people.
But that makes a lot of sense to come out for a YouTube thing, because that's where everything, especially at that time, was going. Like all this new media, so which we might actually.
Are you going to say, is that where the kids are doing the videos?
That's where the kids are making it. Well, I will say this. Like, my life and my career, or lack thereof, would be very different if we had YouTube when I was in film school. Yeah. Like, I was in film school in a very weird period. Like, it wasn't until my senior year that we had an Avid lab. Like, it was like in this weird transitional period. And that's why I'm fucked. That's why my career's fucked, by the way. I blame timing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Early 90s, I would have been Quentin Tarantino. Now I'd be some YouTube person.
You can still be a YouTube person.
I can't. I'm too old. Okay, so you come in. So what? When you came out here, what were you writing? Like, what were you working on?
I wrote a really bad feature when I was in college as my thesis project, and it was really bad. So then I turned that into a slightly less bad pilot.
Okay.
And then I don't know, somehow ended up getting a job as a staff writer on a PBS web series based on those things.
And what was the series?
It was called Frankenstein MD.
That's what I thought you were going to say, because I have that written right here. You wrote episodes of that. Tell us about Frankenstein MD.
That was a really crazy opportunity. It's the same people who did Lizzie Bennet Diaries, and I saw a press release that said that they were going to do Frankenstein, and I shot the head of the company an email saying just like, hey,
I've read Frankenstein.
I know that book. I'm aware of it. And I knew that they were doing a gender bent, dark comedy adaptation of it. And I was like, this is exactly my shit. So I sent them a writing sample and just said, keep me in mind. I'm not expecting anything. They didn't hire me, but then one of their other writers got staffed on a medical drama.
So the one person that knew anything about actual medicine?
Mm-hmm. So then we hired a separate medical consultant, and I was just kind of there. And willing to work for not a lot of money.
That's the key.
Which helps, yeah. So literally 2 months after I graduated from college, got this staff writing gig on a web series, which is nuts.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
You're going to make a lot of our listeners very upset.
And I'm now in the Writers Guild, but I'm an associate member, which means I can't vote.
But you just get fucked over if they strike.
Yeah.
Let's table that.
You're a true resident of Washington, D.C. You have no representation, no voice in government, but you are affected by what they decide.
Exactly.
Let's table the strike thing, because we thought you might have some thoughts or insight on
takes.
that. Yeah. But, okay, so Frankenstein MD, so that seemed like it was a great, really positive experience.
Yeah, it was awesome. I got to be on set. We shot in the YouTube space. Yeah, which is... Have you been to the YouTube space?
No.
I recommend it. It's free if you have 10,000 subscribers.
Interesting.
But they've got studio space and equipment, and just they let you make whatever the fuck you want to make.
And the honest trailer guy is just always in there in the booth, just ready to do voiceovers, at the drop of a hat.
Just him all the time.
Yeah.
Have you gone back and done other stuff there since?
Yeah, I shot a short there.
Is that was that Spore? Is that the short?
That is what that is. Wow, you guys take such good notes.
We
do our research.
We do our research.
Yeah.
So what was Spore about?
It's one of those things where when you make something and you can't tell if it's good or not?
Yes.
So that's sort of how I feel about Spore.
Okay.
250 episodes later.
Yeah.
Was this the first thing that you made, though? Was this the first?
Yeah, it's the first thing that I made.
So there you go.
And I mean, it was cool. It was a sci-fi short that I pulled from the really bad feature that I wrote. There was just one scene between two prisoners, and I adapted that into a sci-fi short.
Oh, perfect.
And it's a little, I wouldn't say darker than what I normally go for. I think it's tonally a little bit more serious than what I normally write.
Okay. Because you said you're into the darker comedic kind of stuff.
Yeah. More Buffy and less Orphan Black or whatever. And this was a little bit more on that end of the spectrum. But it was a great experience, and I worked with two of the stars of Lizzie Bennet Diaries, which is how we got to shoot in the YouTube space.
Nice.
Yeah, so it was cool.
Because that was the project with the 10,000 subscribers.
Yeah, one of the actresses, Mary Kate Wiles, who's a good friend of mine, she has like a Patreon account.
Okay.
Yeah, which is one of those other like newfangled thingies.
Yeah.
And she's, got a YouTube channel, and one of the perks on her Patreon was if I get to a certain level, I'll make a short. And then she got there and she was like, fuck, now I have to make a short.
Now I actually have to go through with this
Now
problem.
you have to do what all the paying people want you to do.
But it was good because it wasn't just me by myself trying to make a short as somebody who had no film school experience. It didn't. I don't have a crew of people that I know.
But you could talk about Laura Mulvey all day long.
No, I can't.
Oh, never mind. 2 people are laughing at that joke.
No, it's okay.
I am not one of them.
No.
She and the Breeders?
No, she's the 70s academic, talked about the male gaze.
Oh, okay, yeah.
It's
Close.
like film theory crap.
No.
Okay.
Yeah, no.
Good tangent, Sean.
That's what, for 250 episodes,
That's what you
bring
got.
gems like that.
Just exposing my cultural blind spots. This is terrible. Yeah, so I made a short.
Okay.
Excellent.
And is the short available? Like, someone can it be viewed?
Yeah, it's on YouTube. It's called Spore, and there's a video game called Spore. So if you just search for that, you're gonna see some weird shit.
You see a lot of Twitch accounts.
Like weird shit. But if you search Spore and then my name, you'll probably find it.
Okay.
Well, then search that.
Yeah.
And watch it. I'm anxious to watch it now, especially knowing it's like the early works. So, anyway, you are also working as worked as a writer's assistant. So you've been in rooms.
Yeah, right now I'm a showrunner's assistant on 2 shows at the same time, which is super fun. I work for Al Goff and Miles Miller, who did Smallville.
Okay.
They're cool dudes. So they run Into the Badlands on AMC and the Shannara Chronicles on MTV.
Now, were you a fan of the Shannara books at all prior to this project?
Nope.
Okay. Because I had read them as a younger lad.
As a youth.
As a youth who was in the target demographic.
When you got this job, were you like, oh shit, I better read these books? Or did you just kind of treat it as like
I still haven't read the book.
If you ever get around to it, only read the first 3, and then the rest are just... Terry Brooks went back to the well one too many times.
How many are there?
Oh, there was he made the core trilogy. This was like 80s sci-fi fantasy where it was just this is like pre Game of Thrones, Robert Jordan. It was this weird wasteland of fantasy, and it's good. They're okay. Everyone is just like way too heavily indebted to J.R.R. Tolkien though at this point.
Okay.
It's fine. I haven't watched the show because once I started reading reviews of it, I'm like,
Yeah, well, it's on MTV, and I like to tell people it's Lord of the Rings with hot teens. So
Okay.
if that sounds like something that you'd be interested in,
Well, hot teens, that's our bread and butter.
gotta get those hot teens.
Yeah. But Into the Badlands, okay, I'm going to admit I am not watching Into the Badlands.
Fuck you.
But it seems like it's very quickly now getting the label as one of those, like, one of the best or most interesting shows that you're not watching kind of thing.
Definitely.
I'm hearing great things about the second season now.
The second season, I saw the first season, and I liked it. It's not quite it's not my show.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit about what the show's about, because I think there are a lot of people not watching, and maybe they're like, oh shit, that's for me.
It's set in a dystopian future, and America has been laid waste.
yes,
Whatever. I can't talk.
America's bad.
America gone real bad.
Which, who knows? By the time we're done recording this, it could be
I'm just waiting for the North Korean nuke to land on LA.
Yeah.
Fuck. So yeah, we got real fucked by Trump, and then I don't know, later there are people around still.
Kung fu powers.
Yeah, with magic kung fu powers. There are no guns. There are no weapons in this world besides swords and other things you can throw or whatever. And we've reverted to the feudal system. So there are these barons who have territories, and they fight over different.
This does sound like something I'd like.
And the fight scenes are like the fight scenes are treated. Like they're like the centerpieces of each of the episodes.
Oh, totally. I mean, it's a dystopian martial arts show.
Okay.
That's the quick pitch. But they've, barons fighting over.
Now, was it based on original idea? There was no pre-existing property?
Yeah, no, it's based on an original idea by Alan Miles.
Oh, that's another great thing.
And the world building is really insane. I would say the first season is on Netflix. It's like 6 episodes, and it is a little bit slow. Like, they take their time revealing the world. And I think that just with budget and shit, we were kind of limited in the scope in the first season. Second season, we've moved production to Dublin, and it's just, oh my God, it's so good.
Has AMC really, made a commitment to this show, to really try to push it then? Because it sounds like things have gotten bigger in the second season.
Well, the timing is also really great because Iron Fist came out right before this season debuted, and we're a good martial arts show with an Asian male lead.
I was so relieved when I heard Iron Fist was bad because, once again, I feel like I'm overwhelmed with the TV I'm watching. And long ago, I used to host an Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. after show for Collider, and I used to do all this Marvel stuff. So I became very into the idea I have to watch every Marvel property.
Yeah.
And I could have given a shit about Iron Fist. Who the fuck is Iron Fist? I didn't know him.
Well, listen, you gotta take a step back and just enjoy Harlots on Hulu. That's the right speed.
Hulu's the one thing I don't have.
Harlots is pretty good.
I don't have Hulu and I don't have Stars, so those are the only things I don't watch. And I'm not watching Into Badlands, but I think I'm going to because I'm keeping intrigued.
When you drop Fear the Walking Dead, now you got a spot.
Exactly. This will be maybe my summer. I go back and catch up on.
There are not that many episodes.
When you said 6 episodes,
yeah,
first
I was
season,
like, I can do this.
Yeah, that was immediately. It's like, I can manage. I can manage that on a lazy Sunday afternoon.
And the fights are fucking incredible. Our fight director is Stephen Fung, and our fight guy is Master Didi, and then Daniel Wu, the star, is just incredible. Everything, it looks awesome.
So in this show, also the story, the mythology, everything has just been expanded, and they're building it all out this season.
This season it's huge, and you could probably honestly jump into season 2 without watching season 1. But
I'm a completist.
You're a completist?
Well, if I start something, I usually finish it, except Fear the Walking Dead, which I'm going to drop. And if I can't jump in on something, I gotta I'm like Woody Allen and Hall. If I miss the opening credits, I can't walk into the movie.
Also, Nick Frost is in season 2.
I saw Nick Frost in the preview, and he's like, there's this shot of him in the trailer. This isn't going to play because it's a.
No, it's good. Do it though. Yeah.
He's like, and it's like, what?
What was he like?
What I did. He was like, what am I doing, Sean? Describe this emotion.
You look like you're hugging the universe, but in reverse.
He's hugging the universe in reverse, and it looks pretty badass.
Yeah, no, it's great.
Is there going to be a season 3? Do you know?
I don't know. We're still waiting to hear from AMC whether we've been picked up.
So,
although who knows, we might know by the time this comes out.
They can do a spin-off, Fear the Badlands. Hold on, here's the sign though. Is Chris Hardwick discussing your show after the fact?
No, but his fans get so mad because
he talks about Fear the Walking Dead.
Well, because Badlands was
yes.
Yeah, Walking Dead was our lead-in for the last 2 episodes of the season, and people were real mad.
And then we had to wait an hour to watch Talking Dead.
Yeah.
Oh, gotcha.
Which I like The Walking Dead, but watching The Talking Dead is like a bridge too far for me. It's like I don't need this much of a dissection of the show.
It's not Game of Thrones.
So real fast, let's just get back to working in a writer's room.
Yeah.
Real fast. So what are you as an assistant there? What are you typically doing for the production and the writers and stuff like that?
As the showrunner's assistant, my main job is to manage the schedules and travel and all the other shit in the lives of Alan Miles. And working on both shows is less chaotic than it would seem because, it's just 2 people. They're only going to travel as much as they travel.
Oh, that's true.
So, I keep up with everything on both shows. I keep up with dailies and scripts as they come out, and I proof things. And right now we're in staffing, which is crazy and stressful. So I read a lot of staffing samples and schedule shit.
Do you get to be creative in this role? Because you're seeing scripts. Do you get to talk about thoughts on episodes and things
Thoughts
like
on
that?
things?
I mean,
Not really.
Okay.
I would say, like, my taste is important, but I don't necessarily have a creative input.
When it comes to staffing, when you're getting all these samples, do you have discretion in that if something gets to you and you read it and you don't think it's good, does it stop at you? Or does it still get passed on?
No,
Okay.
it doesn't stop at me. I mean, kind of, we sort of all read everything rather
Okay.
than, one person going through it and then narrowing it down. My opinion is valued, but the buck does definitely not stop with me.
Okay.
Does definitely not stop with me. I'm having a great time with my mouth right now.
That's-
It's
that's
just,
just- hey.
just going in different.
it's all part of the
Directions.
process.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of using your mouth,
Will Link at the real Will Link, everyone.
you recently talked on a panel at WonderCon.
Yeah.
What was the panel for?
It was for a different podcast.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. It was a writer's room and fandom panel, which was
Okay.
cool. And I have friends who have a podcast called Paper Team.
Okay.
that I guess I'm now plugging.
Okay, no, there you go.
That's fine.
We've had other podcasters on our podcast. I don't think the podcast community is like fighting with
It's
each other.
cutthroat.
Maybe that's why
we're all fighting for that Harry's razors and Blue Apron,
And
ad dollars.
MeUndies.
That's,
Me
yeah,
and
no,
these-
we don't have the. We used to be on a podcast network, and it was so not cutthroat that everyone stopped doing their podcast except us, and the network went under. But we kept doing it because it's like bowling for
Yeah.
us, apparently. So it was for this other podcast, Paper
Team.
Paper Team.
Yeah, my friends Nick and Alex asked me to be on this panel, and it was a bunch of people who either work as writers or support staff in rooms, talking about interacting with fans and what that's like.
What is that like?
Well, you'll have to listen to Paper Team to find out.
I see how this is.
Yeah.
You know what this is? Synergy.
This is. And you have your own podcast that has been on hiatus.
For like a year-long hiatus.
Yes.
Pursued by Bear.
And I'm gonna
Yeah.
assume this is just like a deep, like scene-by-scene Winter's Tale, dive.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the whole thing.
Is it going to, because it's about being in Hollywood and not knowing what you're doing?
Mm-hmm.
Have you stopped doing it because you now know what you're doing?
Kind of.
Okay.
We both got really busy. My friend Dia and I both work as support staff in writers' rooms, and there's another podcast called Children of Tendu, which I'll wholeheartedly
Can-do?
recommend. Of Tendu.
Okay.
Hosted by Javi Grillo-Marxwatch and Jose Molina, who are both like super senior level TV writers who wrote on like Firefly and Agent Carter and Lost and shit.
Oh, shit.
They're great, and they have a podcast where they like give their wisdom. So we created like Children of Tendu Jr. to talk to people who like maybe don't know what the industry looks like at all and want to move here and have a career here.
So it's not Talking Tendu where you do like a show about that week's episode?
Yes, it is that.
I'm going to mention another podcast, which
I can't keep all these podcasts.
that doesn't really. I think they kind of stopped too because they're too busy because things have worked out for them. But and we met them because of this show. But now I'm like real life friends with Jackie Vleck's podcast, Garbage Town. I think this is something. They're not really making new episodes, but it was all about people who's like, we're in Hollywood and this is miserable because everything we've done has failed so far. But now she's having success, so I guess she can't do it. It'd be disingenuous to do Garbage Town.
Or she could just lord over people like, things are going to go well for you, but tell me about your terrible stories.
Like, I'm the trash queen.
So before we move on to the topics, what's next? What are you working on now? Do you have another short or web series? What are you writing? What's going on?
I have a web series that I've been pitching, which is probably never going to get made, but I've been pitching it.
Why not?
Yeah.
Is it something you could make though? Like when you say you're pitching it, who are you pitching it to?
I've like pitched it to a few digital studios. I might rewrite it as a pilot.
Okay.
Is it
and-
something you could make though on your own without the help of a digital studio? I mean, it seems
No.
Needs the money.
It needs the money.
Is it big production value for this?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. It's like Into the Badlands.
Well, it's noir.
Meet
It's like really
Shannara.
stylized.
Oh, that's
yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, hopefully.
Well, noir is big now.
Well, if you get that going and you get that up, and I hope you do, will you come back and talk about it?
I don't know. I'll have to check my calendar.
Oh, jeez. Oh, man.
Very important.
Well,
Hello.
so where can the people find you? Where can they find out all about you?
They can't find me anywhere. I quit.
I'm hiding.
I'm at Brogan, The Brogan
On Twitter.
on Twitter, everywhere,
Everywhere?
all the things.
Okay. And if you are a good listener to the podcast, you're already following her on all the things, because we will have a link to her Twitter on our Facebook page.
Yeah, what the fuck? Follow me, everybody.
Yeah. What are you doing? What's wrong with you people?
Don't look at me. I'm following her.
Our listeners are the worst. They're really terrible. Okay, so WGA, impending strike. Let me ask you this. You work with writers. Mm-hmm. Is this strike going to happen? Do you think the strike's going to happen?
So everyone I know who's actually gone to meetings thinks that it's probably not going to happen.
Really?
I've been getting like 30% chance it happens as a thing people have been saying.
Okay.
This was before negotiations resumed this week, April 10th or whatever.
Right.
And I haven't heard anything since that started.
So there's been a media blackout this
Yeah.
week. I guess they're going to vote on May 1st whether or not to strike.
May 1st is when the strike would begin.
Because that's when the
Because-
contract.
Yeah, the contract.
Right now they're doing the strike authorization.
Yeah.
vote. And it's
Okay.
funny. Everyone I talk to who's in the WGA, none of which are currently employed, they are all convinced the strike is going to happen. They're all voting for the authorization also.
Yeah, as well they should.
Yeah, exactly. Well, first of all, of course you should vote for the authorization because it's not even the strike. It's
Right.
you need to have this.
If you don't
this party.
authorize it, you're more likely to strike in the future because you're going to get fucked over.
Yeah, and this is the thing, and I've already argued with some people who work in this industry in in not necessarily creative context because you know me, I'm for the working man. But I feel like the writers are
Goddamn Jimmy Hoff over here.
Well, they're always getting screwed on these things. I mean, I saw some numbers where like it shows everyone's salaries going up and they're like down like 23%. And we're in this supposed age of like a new golden age of television. And I think everyone thinks that means, the money must be rolling in. But they're making less episodes of things. And also so many things, like we were talking about with the digital platforms and stuff, so many things are on these like niche...
It's like shows for your Fitbit.
Well, like look, but I mean, look at a show like
Harlots.
what's the show on Amazon? Rob Delaney.
Oh, Catastrophe.
Catastrophe. Yes, great show. But the two of them write every episode together. They don't have a writer's room.
Yeah.
So just because there's all this extra stuff doesn't
Or like
mean
Fleabag would be another example.
Yeah. Just doesn't mean there are more. It doesn't mean there are more writing jobs.
The pie has expanded, but the writer's slice of the pie has gotten smaller.
And then they do stuff, and you can speak to this, where they'll take, the writer's room will have so many slots or so much salary to slush around, but they'll want, 12 writers, but they only can staff 10, so they'll take 2 and just artificially yoke them together and say, you guys are now a writing team, and we're each going to pay you half, and they really don't have much negotiating
Which
power.
the WGA seriously frowns upon. That's a paper team.
A paper team.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, we're actually dealing with that right now on our show where we have a lot of upper-level writers, and I think that it's definitely a lot harder now to get staffed or to get jobs as a lower-level writer, which is maybe
Why
not...
is that?
Well, people want those senior-level writers on their shows, but they don't have a ton of money to go around an episode. Like, we have 10 episodes a season on my show. Mm-hmm. We can't hire 10 writers, so...
Now, I imagine a lot of people... Well, I don't know how many of the writers you work with, if they were in the WGA or working when the last strike, which is almost 10 years ago now, which is crazy. I know, isn't that crazy?
It's exactly 10 years ago.
Yeah. So, do you get a sense that, like, the memories of that strike is making people a little less into the idea of a strike or more into the idea of a strike? Maybe they feel they didn't get everything they deserved then, or...
I don't know that it makes them more or less into the idea of a strike. I mean, people definitely across the board, like, nobody wants to strike.
Yeah.
Absolutely nobody wants to strike. The studios don't want us to strike. The writers don't want to strike. And I mean, I think that it is fresh enough in people's memories. I know some writers who were assistants during the last strike, and it took them that much longer to get into a room. And certainly for me, I'm not entirely sure whether I'll have a job if we strike. There's a chance that I might still, since our room has ended, and I might continue on through post. But even then, like, my future is so uncertain as support staff in a room. So I think the people who were kind of in the lower levels at the last time of the strike who are still around are super wary. But I don't know.
I mean, that last strike was like 100 days. That was a long strike.
Yeah.
I can't imagine, this is kind of what I was saying at the beginning, even if they do end up striking, I can't imagine it will get to that level again. Where we've gone 3 months.
This is Trump's America. Anything can happen.
Well, yeah, no, that's the thing. Everything you think is going to happen, like the same thing doesn't happen. Hollywood will be shut down for 8 years now. I mean, that's what's going to happen.
NBC's going to bring Jay Leno back on the air, and he'll just be...
TV is over.
Yeah, this is going to be...
Well, at least you can catch up on all the shows you missed. I mean, listen, let's not forget the good things came out last strike. Dr. Horrible sing-along.
Oh, yeah.
That is the best thing that came out of that last strike.
But then Heroes was ruined, so...
Heroes had other issues.
Friday Night Lights was ruined.
Breaking Bad was made better.
Sure.
Yeah.
But it's funny you bring up the Heroes thing, because I remember watching that second season of Heroes and being like...
Oh, when Hero goes back to, like, dinosaur times?
I don't think I was watching that.
He was in feudal Japan.
I remember dinosaurs.
But... what happened was, I remember watching that second season and going, oh, well, I'll forgive it all its problems because of the strike. And then I watched the third season, and I was like, oh, shit, the problems with this show are deeper than the strike. Well, that's the other thing. It's like I think the timing, because now it's like a lot of, pilots are being shot now. Yeah. So I guess if any protracted strike would really affect the start of the next television season.
Yeah.
So I can't imagine the studios are going to let it get that bad, that they are going to come to the table with something that would be beneficial for the writers. That I don't know, but never underestimate the greed of studios.
Nope.
And what drives me crazy is when I talk to some of these people who, like I said, are non-creatives in entertainment, and they're like, well, all these other people's jobs, these writers should just be happy. They're writers. And I'm like, they're acting as if the writers have ever had any power in this town. Like, where do you think you are? What do you think this industry is?
Yeah.
John, what do you say? Is there going to be a strike?
There could be. I mean, there's nothing like clearing there than, just really going to the most extreme measure. So
what are you most worried about on your purely pop cultural entertainment level of us missing out because of the strike?
No, but the truth is it's really interesting because there is so much more content now. There was 10 years ago, and I really think that, and it's turned into a landscape where it just needs to be fed constantly. I mean, there's shows just like, what the hell is this? Is a new show about Canadian fur trappers I saw on Netflix. I'm like, I don't know what this is, but I would, in another universe, I could see myself watching this, but hundreds of people had to work and put in, thousands of man hours to write and make this thing. And there's just so much coming through the pipeline that so much more would grind to a halt because I assume that the Netflix and Amazons and all these digital studios are not immune from this. It's not like they have different deals.
They're the new wrinkle in all of this, I think.
Well, and it's interesting because I don't know that people will necessarily cancel those subscriptions, though. Like, how affected would Netflix actually be? Like, they'll lose
That's the secret, though, because Netflix, I could see, if there is a strike, Netflix and Amazon would be like, hey, you know what? Now's a good time to go and catch up on Sopranos or look at all this great content that we have for you. And that's the genius of these online studios building their own content libraries that, the TV networks and that need to have new episodes on the air. But when Netflix, it's like the new season of Stranger Things, like that's already... that's coming out.
They're already shooting that.
Right, but they can go on and be like, hey, look at all this stuff you missed out on. It's a good thing there's nothing new coming out because think of all the TV that you've been wanting to
You know what? The strike will be the best argument for all of us to watch Into the Badlands to catch up on that.
So there you have it.
But you know what? But that's interesting because the way we digest this media is so much different now. And I probably would be more likely to give something a shot just to fill that void.
Right, like, oh, watch *Halt and Catch Fire*, you know.
People
like,
aren't going to stop consuming just because
Yeah,
Netflix
they're gonna
aren't
just
putting
look for
things
the-
up. And that's, I think, the biggest difference between this and The Lost Strike.
Yeah.
They're going to look for those pop culture things that they know they would normally obsess over, but just don't have the time to.
See what that is? That's 250 episodes worth of segue power.
Although this topic came about in my head not for a TV show.
That was when you were doing peyote out in Joshua Tree.
I was doing peyote out in Joshua Tree. No, I've been very much all about, for whatever reason this year, I've done a lot of catching up on old films that were kind of blind spots, or movies I hadn't seen since college. Like, I went to go see Singin' in the Rain a few weeks ago in the theater, and I hadn't seen it since college, and I'd forgotten so much about the movie and how great it is. And
It ends with a murder-suicide.
I'd forgotten that murder-suicide at the end. But then it kind of went down this natural, I think because of the show Feud, I went down this, like, Joan Crawford hole. Like, I saw this great movie, Sudden Fear, which I had never seen before. I rewatched Whatever Happens to Baby Jane.
And that's it.
But what happened was, I'm like, I really need my old Hollywood fix. So what I did was, there was this podcast, an amazing podcast, You Must Remember This, which I had never listened to.
Even though I'd been telling you about it for like 2 years.
And I knew I would love this podcast. I knew I would love every second of this podcast because all it covers is old Hollywood.
So it's hosted by Karina Longworth, and what she does is she's essentially a historian of Hollywood, and when she started, there would be like one-off episodes. So like Frank Sinatra in Hollywood, or she would do, just like Montgomery Clift, the early years, or she'd do a one-off on...
The Marriage of Carol Lombard and Clark
Val
Gable.
Lewton.
Yeah.
But then she started getting into these long series arcs. So she did 10 episodes on Charlie Manson's Hollywood, and then she did 15 episodes on the history of like MGM's
Blacklist.
MGM's Golden Age, the Blacklist. She did 6 or 8 episodes on Joan Crawford.
She's doing, and that's what I started with. So then I'm like, okay, let me listen to this.
They're very well done, deeply researched, and just compelling. She's a very compelling storyteller.
What's this called again?
You Must Remember This.
Okay.
Kiss is but a kiss.
I sing the whole song. So I listened to the Joan Crawford 6-part episode, and then it's all I've been listening to. I'm listening to, like, I must have listened to 50 episodes of this thing since I started. And one of the reasons I didn't do this was because I knew all I would do is listen to this if I started. And that's where I am. So it's just, and it's great. And I wish I hadn't resisted so long, but now I know. Taylor, is there something that either you would love and you're resisting for the same reason, you just don't have the time, or that you, like me now, you gave into and you like, and then it's like, oh, I'm watching 100 episodes of this now because I'm stuck?
Yeah, there are a lot of things. I haven't seen Battlestar Galactica, and I know that I'll be fucking obsessed with it.
Yeah.
I haven't seen Twin Peaks, which is crazy.
I haven't seen that either.
You haven't seen that either?
No,
Yeah.
I had a sheltered childhood.
Okay. Yeah, and I had a child.
We were all raised by reprobates.
To be fair, yeah. I had a childhood in which it wasn't just I got to watch Twin Peaks. I was encouraged to watch things like Twin Peaks.
I saw the Sons of Anarchy pilot recently, and I was so into it and knew that if I started watching it, I would just never go to sleep
I've heard
again.
it's not great.
Really? Oh, I loved the pilot.
Well, where it ends up.
Yeah, the show just kind of muddles along. For
I think I'd like it.
But see, that's the thing. Like you're a much stronger person than me because you saw the pilot and you're like, I don't have time for this.
I was in the middle of re-binging The Good Wife at that point, so it was easy for me to not get distracted.
You had something else.
Yeah.
Now, you referenced a show earlier that I know I would love, and I think it's shameful I never watched, and that's Buffy. And the reason I never watched Buffy is this weird. Here's why. Because Buffy, and I'm going to...
There is no why.
Well, I'll explain why. Buffy started when I was in college. Also, this is why I'm like, The West Wing is kind of one that I was in and out of too. Because there were these shows, and they're great shows that started when I was in college. And in college, I watched less TV than I ever did in my life.
Both of those shows have been on Netflix forever. Although Buffy's no longer there.
But
missed it.
Because I know it's so daunting to, like, there are all these seasons, and I know I would love it, and I know I start, and then I would never stop.
When I was the summer between junior and senior year of high school, I borrowed my friend's, bless you.
Thank you. He does.
I borrowed my friend's Buffy box set and watched all 7 seasons of Buffy, and then went to Target and bought all 5 seasons of Angel on DVD.
But did you do the thing where you alternated the Buffy Angel episodes?
I didn't do that, but
Okay.
I watched 7 seasons of Buffy and 5 seasons of Angel in 2 weeks.
It's the way Joss Whedon intended it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I don't know that I would recommend that to anyone. And those are 22 episode seasons, hour-long episodes.
Yeah. Not these short seasons that we're now
No.
getting.
I mean, you're already
used to.
daunted by like 14 episodes, or like not even 10 episodes of Into the Badlands.
Well, you know, it was when I was unemployed. That's when I got into the Americans, because then I just binged the first 3 seasons. I'm just like,
I mean, if
well,
I see an episode of a TV show and I see it's like 52 minutes, like, fuck you. Why are you doing this to me?
So, Sean, what about you?
Well, I mean, you know, other than, you know, middle period Anthony Trollope and late Henry James, you know, that's the pop culture I'm missing out on.
Well, I know that's a real answer, but
I know
why don't you
you're-
give
you
us
know,
a more populist answer?
Listen, don't throw it in my face that you've read Dr. Thorne and I haven't. Sopranos is probably the big one for me.
Oh, yeah, I haven't seen that either.
yeah.
And you know you'd like it.
I know I would. Sopranos is like the big one. I mean, there's Twin Peaks, but that I know I'll probably get around to that at some point. Although I'm weirdly waiting for the Showtime episodes, because if they come out and they suck, I'm just like,
18 episodes. By the way, no Showtime show is 18 episodes. This is 18 episodes of Twin Peaks, all written by David Lynch.
this can't be good. He's never done Well, no, I'm sorry.
He did Twin Peaks.
Well, then he left.
Yeah, and then it stopped, and now he's back.
He's had a lot of time to write them.
Well, because he hasn't done movies since Inland Empire.
Yeah.
There was that weird website where it was just him giving the weather every day, like it's 72 degrees here in Los Angeles, California.
Listen, he's busy with transcendental meditation. He's trying to save the world. He doesn't have time for your televisions.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
So you've never seen Sopranos either. Mm-mm. See, now that, to be fair, that also did start when I was in college, and then I did make sure I caught up on that.
But I think
one.
that's the biggest. I mean, I also haven't seen The West Wing. But
Neither have I.
Yeah, it's daunting. It's a lot
Neither
of
have
TV.
I. Yeah, that's a lot.
It's a lot of TV. I'm trying to think what else there is. I mean, yeah, there's stuff I would like to watch, but you know, the things that I feel like I should watch.
Is there a movie,
Shield
like a
that-
series of movies? You know what I'm realizing,
Yeah.
because this is Fast and the Furious weekend, that's a blind spot for me. I've never seen any of them. And I
Really?
see everything.
Yeah, I don't know how you've missed those Fast and the Furious.
Well, here's the thing. I didn't want to see the first one because I'm like, I don't care about cars. This just looks like a Point Break ripoff with cars. And then the second one didn't look that good. And then they just kept making them. And then I heard around the 5th one, they started to get crazy.
Yeah.
But for the same reason, I couldn't just jump into the Badlands season 2.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, I have to go back and watch those early ones. But I should really just start with like 5. And
Yeah, you're not going to miss anything.
Do
All
you-
you need to
do-
know is their family.
do you like those movies?
I've seen the first 2.
Not even Tokyo Drift.
Wait, okay. I thought Tokyo Drift was the second one. I
That's
don't
the-
know. Okay.
Second
I've
one
seen
is
the
Too
first
Fast,
3.
Too Furious, directed by John Singleton.
Right. Oh my God. How can I forget?
Yeah.
Too Fast, Too Furious.
In Miami.
I don't
With
know.
Tyrese.
And no Vin Diesel in that.
No.
Ah.
Too big he was doing Triple X.
R.I.P.
So
Getting that Xander Cage money.
Speaking of beloved shows,
Yeah.
there is a beloved show, nay, a beloved American institution that has been on the air for 42 years. That is, of course, Saturday Night Live. But there's a problem. For the entirety of its existence, it's only been live to those fucking East Coast elites, to which, really, I used to be one of. And the rest of us schnooks out here in Pacific time, or what about the poor people in Central or goddamn Mountain time, they get stuck with bullshit, tape-delayed, Saturday Night Live, quote unquote. So when Kristen Stewart drops an F-bomb, we don't get to hear her say fuck like they do on the East Coast. We get to hear her say bleep. But now, suddenly discovering that they're popular and that America is interested in what they have to say, SNL has made the decision to air the final 4 episodes of this season live coast to coast. And you know why? Because of fucking Trump. It took a petty, narcissistic man-child with his finger on the nuclear button and Alec Baldwin's empty schedule for us to watch Saturday Night Live the way God intended us to. What have you been waiting for, SNL? What took you so long? Was it because there was so much else on Saturday Night Live, on Saturday night television, that you were afraid to compete with? Or were you afraid to compete with reruns of Saturday Night Live that they air on NBC before Saturday Night Live? And that's why you, Saturday Night Live, and Canadian executive producer Lorne Michaels are this week's enemy of the podcast. Go fuck yourselves. This took way too long to happen. Why did it take so long?
Oh, peak TV.
You've never seen it live.
Never. Ever.
This is going to be a treat for you because you grew up here. We at least were on the East Coast. We could have watched it live.
I feel like I somehow wasn't missing anything.
Let me ask you this, Tara. Are you watching Saturday Night Live?
Yeah,
Do you watch it regularly?
I watch it on Sunday morning.
That's
The way God really intended. Eating a bowl of cereal, shaking off a hangover.
That's true. Like, I watch it.
Let's see what Charlize Theron did last night.
I watch it Sunday morning. I DVR it every Saturday night, and then Sunday morning, while I'm eating breakfast, I'm like, ooh, so let's see what happened
I
last
watch it on Hulu because I have Hulu.
Oh.
And you're not watching Harlots?
I'm not watching Harlots.
Just get on that.
Hulu, the one thing I don't have. You have the one thing I don't have.
I have all the things. Yeah.
She even... CISO?
I don't have CISO. But I have a friend who has CISO.
But would this... Well, I guess this doesn't... Can you watch it live on Hulu?
No.
No, but they put the whole thing up the next day.
The next day.
So I guess my question, like... Does the idea of being able to watch it live, actually live, add any juice for you to be able to watch it like in prime time here?
Maybe. I don't really do anything on Saturdays usually, so.
Oh, so fair enough.
I guess I'm their target audience, but.
So now like 8:30 p.m. you could fire it up. Is that when?
I'll probably forget about it though.
Well, you know what's so funny? Like, I looked at my DVR and I'm like, Saturday Night Live at 8:30. Like, I forgot. Well, you've written down to do this topic, and I forgot. I'm like, what's wrong with my DVR?
What brave new world are you living in?
Are you excited to watch? Are you gonna?
Where am I gonna watch it live?
I guess you could come over to my place and watch it.
Gonna stare at my Calvin Hobbes box set?
I'm the only asshole who pays for cable. Is that what I'm?
I have my parents' cable login.
Yeah. So do I.
Yeah.
I got Bob Blankenheim's Netflix, and Bob Blankenheim has my HBO. It's a fair trade.
Crisscross.
Are you enjoying this season? Because this has been, I mean, look, political Saturday Night Live is usually the best Saturday Night Live.
Yeah.
But I feel like also, like, we've gotten to the point with Trump where I almost can't even watch the humor in it anymore.
I like it when they rest Alec Baldwin and focus on
Like
other
a pitcher?
people. Yeah. Like I loved Melissa McCarthy, Sean Spicer. I really hope she's on it this week because so much has happened.
Well,
so much has happened.
I keep thinking, and this episode goes up the day after you listeners will, but I feel like she has to come on this weekend.
There's no way.
Even though she's hosting in a few weeks.
Yeah.
But there's no way you can't.
She could be giving birth, and she'd have to just pause that and go be Sean Spicer.
To do a skit about Holocaust centers.
I mean...
There's definitely going to be a Holocaust Center skit. We could probably sit here and write. I guess that's my one critique of this season of SNL is that because what's happening in reality is so insane, you can kind of predict everything they're going to do.
And that's how you end up with, the filler episodes like, I don't know, what if Louis C.K. had beautiful eyelashes? Let's do that for 6 minutes at the top of the show.
Yeah.
What is
weird.
Terrible.
I thought that was a weird thing to start the first real skit of the show because that's
like a last skit.
Yeah, but the last skit this past week was really weird. Oh no, not I wasn't thinking the accent one. I was thinking the sofa one, the
sectionals.
Sectional sofa.
I fucking loved that one.
I
thought it was a little too weird for me, and I was like, okay.
I thought that's why I like my Saturday Night Live. I like.
Well, so let's tell you some of the guests who are going to be coming straight to our living rooms at 8:30 p.m. on Saturday night.
Well, you got hack comic Jimmy Fallon coming on. I'm not a Jimmy Fallon fan. here's my problem with Jimmy. Okay, let me tell you. Here's my problem with 3 of the last 4 hosts. You got Jimmy Fallon, which who gives a shit? Chris Pine. That's kind of interesting because he's never hosted before.
Yeah.
Melissa McCarthy, who's going to be great, and The Rock, Dwayne Johnson, who's going to be great.
To close out the season.
Now, here's my issue. I like that Chris Pine is hosting because he's never hosted before. I feel like Saturday Night Live, and maybe... It felt like when I was a kid, there were a lot of people hosting for the first time. Mm-hmm. I feel like maybe Lorne Michaels doesn't want to have to deal with, like assholes or something. And it's like, well, I know Melissa McCarthy will be good. I know...
Well, he had Aziz Ansari had never hosted before. He had him on this season.
So, okay, that's one.
That's like a safer bet because he's a stand-up.
Exactly. How many times has Louis C.K. in the past few years already hosted? How many times Jimmy Fallon hosted? How many times Melissa McCarthy hosted? She's brilliant, but it's like...
So who would you want to see? Like who
I want Tatiana Maslany hosting Saturday Night Live.
Well, that would be great. I don't know. I feel really uncomfortable. Like when the host isn't doing well, I can't watch the show.
But she's got an improv background and she's Canadian.
Oh, This is not a knock on Tatiana.
Okay.
She should absolutely host SNL.
Yeah, no, it's some like there are some rough ones.
Like Julia Margulies.
Was she a bad host?
I don't know. Did she ever host?
I think, yeah, she hosted.
I love Juliana Margulies.
She hosted a skit, I believe, where she had to spit food into Chris Kattan's mouth back in the day.
Wow, who hasn't?
Like a baby bird.
Juliana Margulies is the single most nominated SAG actress.
Yeah.
Or actress at the SAG Awards. I still think she's underrated. She's so good.
She's great. You know who was a terrible host? January Jones. You remember when she hosted? That was terrible.
She's so beautiful. I don't care.
Oh, okay.
She's a terrible host.
She was a terrible host.
She's no Paris Hilton.
Oh my god. Who is there? Somebody you would like to see host? Like, is there somebody that you would love to see? Like,
this is a really hard question. I didn't come prepared for this one.
I wasn't made where there'd be a test.
Because I want to give a good answer.
well, you could give a bad answer. We don't care.
I suddenly don't know who I care about. All the shows that I watch, like all the people that I care about aren't like famous enough to host SNL.
Yeah.
What about Batista, the from the Guardians of the Galaxy? The guy who plays...
You know, wrestlers always do well on SNL.
Well, because they're showmen, they're performers.
Yeah. I mean, look, The Rock is
Dave
great.
Bautista.
By the way, The Rock is great.
Yeah.
Like, he's the best.
No one's arguing with this.
I don't think Lauren Graham has hosted SNL, has she?
I don't remember her hosting.
She would probably be
If
good.
she did, it was a while ago, and I feel like it'd be fresh enough. It's not somebody.
Sharon Horgan from Catastrophe. I think be a great host.
I mean, she'd be great, but she's on that level of nobody would know who the hell she is.
Yeah.
I mean, Tatiana Maslany.
They save that slot for the musical episodes.
Yeah.
She'd barely be somebody they know who it is.
I don't know, who else is popular?
I don't know. I don't know who's popular anymore. I mean, like, Scarlett Johansson hosted a couple weeks ago. Like, I thought she did a great job. She's hosted 1 million times already. You know? It's like, get some fresh blood in there. And I'm not excited about this Jimmy Fallon thing.
No, I can tell. But at least he'll come to your TV earlier than normal.
Yeah. You get to get it over with. So we always like to end on a weird note. And a lot of times that weird note involves, like, a funny animal story. Or sometimes it involves my favorite, when we do fast food news, which is usually about some crazy new Taco Bell product. But this is a double whammy. A horse in California had a rough experience after visiting a Taco Bell late at night. The horse, and I guess the rider of the horse, were returning from Taco Bell when...
Near downtown Riverside.
In downtown Riverside, when the cover of a utility vault beneath the sidewalk collapsed under them, and the horse fell into this 5-foot deep hole. So they had to rescue this horse. There were crews that had to come fish this horse out. The owner, though, he left. He ran away on foot. So I have a couple of questions.
Well, the horse jumped out on its own and suffered minor,
They didn't have to put down the horse.
No, the horse is fine. Minor injuries.
So I have questions here. One, how drunk was this man who decided he was going to take the horse to Taco Bell and then abandon the horse? And how did they know? the horse was coming from Taco Bell. They must have talked to Taco Bell employees later and been like, yeah, no, that horse was here. We know that horse.
I was going to say the Doritos Logos Taco dust all over his...
Yeah, that's how the horse...
Maybe his saddlebags were just filled with quesaritos.
See, I don't think the man was that drunk. That just sounds like a good idea to me up until he abandoned the horse.
Yeah, the horse. You got to go down with the horse.
Yeah.
I mean, why would you abandon the horse?
The love, the high plains? What is this?
See, I think he had to have been drunk because that's why you abandoned. Because otherwise, I don't know why you would abandon the horse. Because a horse, this is an expensive animal.
It's a noble creature.
Noble creature.
Maybe it wasn't his horse.
He stole
shit!
the
There's horse thievery now.
Yeah, he was horse jacking.
Horse thieves, and they go to Taco Bell.
Of course, this happened in the Inland Empire. By the way, this is not like this is not happening in the West Hollywood Taco Bell.
No.
If you owned a horse, would you take it through the drive-throughs?
Absolutely.
Yeah, right. I mean,
that's a good idea.
Why wouldn't they? Why wouldn't they? They would serve me on.
Well, I can tell you from personal experience, they will not serve a child on a bicycle in the drive-through.
Oh.
At least the Carl's Jr. on the corner of Burbank and Woodman will not.
I used to work on a scavenger hunt, and one of the items one year was to go through the drive-through in an invisible car, and we had no problem getting served.
Really?
Was this in Northern Virginia?
No, it's all over the world.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, wait! You went on a scavenger hunt all over the world?
I worked on an international scavenger hunt.
What?
What? We're about to end the show. We're just getting that you are an international scavenger hunt.
Yeah.
What was real fast? What was this?
It's called Gishwiz. It's the world's largest. It's the greatest international scavenger hunt the world has ever seen.
Where'd it go?
Where'd it go? It's everywhere. It's.
But it's not like the Amazing Race where you're running around different cities. Like there's
No, they do it. It's a week every year.
So, but
Gishwiz.
Gishwiz.
Yeah. So we have a team in LA. Do we then just do LA things, but at the same time there are people all over the world doing things, or do
you can make a team with it's every team is 15 people.
Okay.
So if you've got 14 friends, you can all be on a team together. But if there are any open spaces on your team, people from all over the world will fill those spots.
I have 14 friends.
I do not.
You're one of my 14 friends.
Do you have 14 friends willing to do a scavenger hunt with you?
I do not.
Let me tell you what. Back in the day, I did. Now everybody's.
Because I'm very popular and I can't make that
friends
work.
are married with babies. Can we attach like babies as part of the team?
You can
unofficially, yeah. They can participate.
A team of it's gonna be you, me, and 13 babies on the team.
I can arrange.
That's a new Adam Sandler movie.
Oh shit!
And on that note, Taylor, thank you so much for coming on.
Although
Okay,
the Wiz and
want-
Gets to Wiz is going to be very different than the Adam Sandler movie.
I've had a lot of time to think about this, and I would like Busy Phillips to host SNL.
Okay,
We can make that happen.
I think you know what I don't know if we can make that happen, but we can get that information to her. We can get that information to Busy Phillips rather easily.
Good.
Okay.
That's all. I had a lot of time to think about that.
She'd be good, and she's going to be on a show that Tina Fey created, so maybe that will come true.
Synergy.
Taylor, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you.
One more time, tell the people where they can find you.
At TH Brogan on Twitter and other places.
On all the social medias.
Yeah, Pornhub.
Okay then. Just drop that in there.
No.
Now, is that your username or is that your
I don't know.
Okay.
I've never been there before. I've never been on Twitter.
That's fair. Sean.
You can find me at the Sean David. So follow me there. Twitter, Instagram. Do that.
Okay. You can follow me on Twitter at The Real Will Link. April 20th, I am going to be in Sit and Spin. I'm very excited. I haven't done a lot of shows lately because, work. But I'm very excited about this show. A lot of my coworkers are going to
it's
this
going to be
show.
good.
So that's going to be
Which story will we be telling?
This is actually going to be a rather, on my line of stories, a rather tame one. It's about the best worst New Year's Eve
That's a good one.
I ever had. Luckily, I've already told the one about visiting an S&M club at that show, so my coworkers won't get to hear that. And then also, April 26th, I'm going to be at Tales of Tinseltown. That's at 3 clubs. But
what clubs?
It's at 3 clubs on Santa Monica and Vine.
Okay.
And it's a great show. Megan Hayes hosts it. Oscar Sagastumi also hosts it. And if you're free, come down that night. It's $5, and it's lots of fun stories about Tinseltown. On the show next week, no guest.
That's it. We're done. It was our 251st first episode.
No, it is our annual summer movie preview where me and Sean just yell about summer movies for an hour.
Why are they just making sequels these days?
We tell them, yeah, what's up with that?
What's a transmorpher?
So we'll complain about that. And then the week after, we're coming back with a big guest, though.
Right.
Fresh off being on Marin. You go on Marin, then you come on us. It's Dylan Brody is returning to our podcast. The great Dylan Brody's got a new special. He's got a whole bunch of new stuff going on.
Does he have a new vest?
I'm sure he has a new vest and a new pocket watch.
Wait.
So he will be on, and I'm sure that will be a very long episode.
It will be.
So Taylor, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Oh, okay. You're like, sorry. Thank you. And for the Will Sean podcast, I'm Sean David.
I'm Will Link.
And we are finished.
We're finished.